How many times have you thought, if I weighed less, I'd perform better? Or if I ate less, I'd be a better athlete? Or even, carbs are bad, I can't eat them. These are all things that my guest and former client, Emme Crosland, told herself, which she found out to not be true. In fact, following this advice was ruining her performance and her health. After Emme and I worked together, she made leaps and bounds in changing her mindset, eating habits, performance, and ultimately her health. Find out what it's like to work with me and discover what were the hardest parts of the journey, what was helpful and not helpful in recovering from disordered eating. Every parent who has a daughter who's struggling with disordered eating will want to listen, and every athlete who has told themselves the same thing that Emme told herself will also want to listen to today's episode. But listen up. If you yourself or your child are struggling with disordered eating, restricting your intake, and being consumed with the thoughts of food and your body, I want you to listen to this advice. This is not something to be ashamed of, but it's something that you need to do something about. So I encourage you to set up a free, no obligation consultation with me by visiting elitenutritionandperformance.com/consult. So now let's get into today's episode. Do you wish you could look like you train as much as you do? Are you sick of scouring the internet for sports nutrition tips only to find information tailored to men? Do you wish there was a simple solution to fueling your body for your activity level? Are you ready to find freedom with food? It is possible to have balance between fueling your body for your sport and for enjoyment, and it's not as complicated as you may think. Can we say hello, food freedom? There's a way to have it all and eat your cake too, and I'm going to show you how. Hey, I'm Kristen, a former multi-sport athlete, a sports dietitian, personal trainer, and Jesus lover. In this podcast, you will find practical, sustainable fueling tips for female athletes that will set you free from diet culture, an ever-changing set of nutrition rules, underfueling, and underperforming. You'll learn how to put together a fueling plan that works for you, that doesn't require all the rules, tracking every morsel of food you consume, letting food consume your every thought, with Jesus at the center of it all. If you're ready to find a sustainable nutrition plan that works for you with your active lifestyle and is tailored to your unique physiology, break free from diet culture, and finally feel comfortable in your own skin, this podcast is for you. Whip up that smoothie, lace up your shoes, and let's jump in. Okay, I'm super excited today to have Emme Crosland on my podcast. She is a former client of mine, and she has struggled with an eating disorder and come out on the other side. So she's going to kind of share her story with you today and a little bit about her experience. So, Emme, can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to seek out some sports nutrition counseling?
Yes. So eighth grade, I developed an eating disorder because I believed I was playing soccer at that time, and I believed in order to be better and improve, I had to be skinny. So I ended up losing all the muscle I had from over the years of playing the sport, and I lost my period, and I actually ended up getting worse at soccer, so it did not help at all. And I hit double digits on the scale, and that's when my mom kind of realized something's wrong. So she kind of gave me two options. She was like, you can be put in a hospital and lose soccer, or you can get a nutritionist. So my mom ended up finding this Kristen, and that's where it all started.
I had no idea those were your options.
Yeah.
I'm glad you picked number two.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you feel like were some of the biggest challenges that you faced with your nutrition before working with me?
Before I started working with you, I believed the best way to be healthy was eating the least amount of calories. So I didn't really know the difference between quantity and quality of foods. So I I ended up having poor sleep and poor energy when I was around people because I was only focused on the number I was consuming, and I lost a lot of friendships and stuff. So that was one of the big challenges.
Okay. So did you have any specific goals that you wanted to work on with me when it came to your nutrition? And obviously, your mom kind of gave you this ultimatum, but did you have any specific things that you wanted to work on?
At first I didn't. I was like, I don't understand why I'm doing this. I'm fine. But then later on I was like, I want to make sure I can get my period back and be able to perform well in soccer. So it kind of changed after the first week or so.
Yeah. Okay. And so aside from feeling like you just needed to focus on calories and also that you needed to eat less in order to get better at soccer. Were there any other misconceptions that you feel like you had about sports nutrition before working together?
Honestly, I didn't have any misconceptions. I just didn't really know like what the actual like carb, protein, and fat was. So like I didn't really understand like what a balanced meal was. So that
Yeah.
was about.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about what the initial consultation was like and what were your thoughts and feelings going into it and then coming out of it?
Going into it, at first I was like, I just didn't understand what I was doing, and I was really nervous. But when I like first joined it with you, like you were very nice and welcoming, and it made me feel like better. But at first I was like so nervous because I didn't want to start like recovering at first. But
Mhm.
when you started like teaching me all this stuff, I was like, okay, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So you felt like comfortable and then after a while actually motivated to do something.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the key changes that you made to your diet and how do you feel like those impacted your performance?
So obviously I increased my food intake overall, and I focused on making like a balanced meal, like having a carb, protein, and fat, and fruit or vegetable in every meal. And I feel like I increased my carbs a lot, which helped because I ended up starting running as I was recovering. Like I started cross country. So as I was increasing like my carbs and stuff, I saw my performance getting better. So like it helped like knowing that like carb increase was working. And like when people were saying like carbs are bad, that's not true because it gives you like a lot of energy to
Yes.
perform.
Yes. And this is one of like my pet peeves is that nutrition is not a one size fits all. Like what applies to one person does not apply to everybody, you know? So like if you take like a I don't know, 80-year-old woman that doesn't exercise, yeah, she doesn't really need a whole lot of carbohydrates, but like somebody your age that is exercising a ton, you obviously need it. So, yeah, okay. Now, how did your nutrition plan influence your training and then your overall athletic performance and then also just your health?
So like for soccer, like training, I felt better at practice. Like I actually had energy to like play and scrimmage. And then at the same time I was doing cross country. So it was really cool to see like as I continue to like stay consistent with fueling myself, like the progress I would make in my meets. And I would like keep on running best times in my 5Ks and stuff. So that was really cool. And my overall health, like obviously I had to gain weight and it wasn't comfortable at first, but it had to be done and I had to keep telling myself that. But I just felt like I was getting stronger, like and putting my muscle back on and everything that I had lost before. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How did you overcome that mental piece of knowing that you had to gain weight, and especially when you were actually gaining weight, how did you deal with that? Because I think that's an area that a lot of people struggle with.
Um, that definitely was the hardest part because like it's very uncomfortable, especially like mentally, like you're gaining weight and you can feel like everyone's just like watching you gain the weight and it's
Hmm.
like really uncomfortable. But to overcome, like I just had to keep telling myself like there's much more than to what I like look like. And obviously being skinnier, I wasn't my best person I was capable of being. So I would sometimes like turn to my friends and ask for advice. I had a really good friend who would like help me. And then I would just like mentally, I would just have to tell myself like you have to do this to get better.
Yeah.
So
And so I know you said that you felt like everybody was watching you, but do you feel like, did anyone actually say anything to you? Like, oh my gosh, you're gaining
no,
some weight there.
no one, no one
Yeah,
said.
nobody. Yeah. And I'm sure nobody even like thought anything of it. And it's just like what we think of ourselves. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, how do you feel like focusing on nutrition affected your mental approach to sports and competition, or did it?
Well, instead of like playing like soccer as a way to like lose weight or as a way to like burn calories, um, focusing on nutrition like shifted my mindset in order to like be excited to play in the game or run my race. And I still do. I view food as fuel for my body. So like now I know like how to fuel myself before a performance or after. And that's really important. So like it was just like it wasn't like was the thing that revolved like around the world for me. Now I can focus on my sports and not only food.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and that is such a, I think, a huge accomplishment to be able to switch from like, oh, I'm going to do this so I can lose some weight to, okay, I actually need to, fuel myself and look at the food as a fuel source. That's awesome. Did you have a support system in place while making these changes, and how important was that support system?
Yeah, so my whole family was supportive, obviously, like my mom and was always supportive. She would always like try and find fun meals to make or something like
Hmm.
for dinner, or same with my dad, and they would never say anything like negative, always positive comments. My sister was helpful as well. And I also had like a really good friend, as I mentioned before, who I would come to for advice, and that was also really nice.
Yeah.
But overall, like I had a really good support system, so.
So, what kind of things did your parents say that you found to be helpful? Because I think a lot of parents don't know what to do or what to say.
After like a race or performance, my mom would always be like, "You look so strong," or like, even if I didn't run well, she's like, "You still look strong, like you are doing great, like keep up the good work." It was just never like anything surrounding like food with my
Hmm.
performance. It was she would like separate that, so that was nice.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. And is there anything that anybody ever said to you while you're going through this process that you felt like was not helpful?
Um, I just think some people like don't understand like how hard it is to recover from this, or like some people just aren't educated on this topic. Like one example, I played tennis freshman year and I was getting a jersey and it was like an older coach, I guess, made a comment and saying how I had to eat a hamburger or something, and I was just
Yeah,
like really?
not
What?
helpful.
And it was like there's not really many other people who will like say anything. It's just some people who aren't educated on the topic don't really know like what to say. So sometimes they can make comments that they don't realize are like wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So, were there any setbacks or challenges that you encountered during your journey, and how did you overcome them?
Um, I had like obviously I had like bad body image days, or like days where I was like I don't understand like the point of doing this anymore. Like especially like when I didn't get my period back for a long time, and like sometimes I still struggle with that obviously, but
Hmm.
I would just have to keep telling myself like in order to get your period back, in order to feel like happy again, you have to keep fueling yourself. So
Yeah, for sure. And so, can you explain why it is important to even get your period back? Because I mean, I know when I was going through this and I lost my period, I was like, woohoo! Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that, but like, can you explain why you feel like it's important?
well, first, I know it causes an hormonal imbalance,
Yeah,
and then
for
you
sure.
also like can't get pregnant, obviously, and that's a big part. Like, obviously, I want to have kids when I'm older,
Hmm.
and it's just like it messes up your like everything, so it just is not
Yeah.
beneficial at
One of
all.
the things that I've actually learned somewhat recently is that if with anorexia, it messes up your gut microbiome, so the ratio of good bacteria to bad bacteria in your gut, and that influences so much. And so if you have gut dysbiosis, where it's that imbalance, then you are more prone to autoimmune conditions and things like diabetes, obesity, infertility, like the whole nine yards. And then, of course, there's osteoporosis and the risk of injuries and things along those lines. But, the gut microbiome piece of it, I honestly never knew before learning that. So, okay. So, do you have any favorite recipes or meals that became staples during, us working together that you've really relied on?
Yeah, so I still eat this now for breakfast. Like, I always have like oatmeal or a yogurt bowl. My mom like thinks it's crazy. I go through like 3 tubs of yogurt a week, but like I always have yogurt with like fruit, or like I make homemade granola and a nut butter, or oatmeal. I'll have the same thing with nut butter and fruit and Greek yogurt, and it's really good. And then I've always been like a grilled chicken girl. Like I love chicken, so either like lunch or dinner, sometimes I'll have like grilled chicken with like sweet potatoes and broccoli. It's just like an easy meal to throw together. I feel like you don't really know what you want to eat, so
Yeah.
that's Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So what advice would you give to athletes or active individuals who are considering working with a sports nutritionist or are
Um,
struggling with this?
yeah. So even if you are struggling and even if you aren't or you're an athlete and not, it's like really important I think to find a nutritionist because these like skills that you learned you will take through like your whole entire life. Like everyone I feel like needs to know how to make like a balanced meal and when you do know how to do it, like you see like how easy it is to fuel your body and do it properly. So,
Yeah, for sure. So I know that this is not in anything's happening with it right now, but I'm going to mention anyways. So Emmy and I talked about was it your senior class project? Is that what it was? For
I'm taking AP research right now, and I'm a junior, so
oh,
I
okay,
guess
okay.
junior, yeah.
Okay, so working on creating an app for teenagers that are struggling with disordered eating, which I think is such a cool idea. So maybe one day that will actually happen.
Yeah.
Because I think that that would be just like such a cool thing for people. And, you know, everything is an app now. There's an app for everything.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be so cool. So thank you so much, Emmy, for coming on. I really, really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your experience with everybody. And yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you, encouraged you, or changed you, I would love for you to leave me a review and share it with a girlfriend who will find it helpful or inspiring. That is the best way you can thank me and help me share my knowledge so I can help more people just like you. I'm so thankful that you spent this time with me today, and I'd love to connect with you. Join my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition, or send me a DM on Instagram, or hop on over to my website, elitenutritionperformance.com. I'll see you back here next week.